The 19th of December 2022. In Essex, a council finance officer signs a 2-page notice. It says his council can no longer balance its books. The shortfall for the year, nearly £470 million, the largest in the history of English local government. Nobody broke in. The money left through the front door. Most accounts of Thurrock stop at the word bankrupt. What the record shows is stranger. A borough of 175,000 people, bins, libraries, care homes, had borrowed around £1 billion from more than 150 other councils. 655 million of it went into solar bonds issued by companies owned by one man. Most of this was on the record. Few read it. How a district council came to owe £1 billion to its neighbours, and why, 4 years on, nobody has been charged. And this. In March 2018, the council's own Treasury advisor called the strategy extreme. The contract ended. Thurrock then spent 2 years and 8 months with no Treasury advisor at all. Thurrock sits on the north bank of the Thames, just past the eastern edge of London. Docks, refineries, the container port at Tilbury. Its annual budget for running the borough was about £154 million. Its debt would reach somewhere between 1.3 and 1.5 billion. The figure moves with the date and with what is counted. Roughly 9 times what it spent on the borough itself. On the 22nd of May 2020, a reporter named Gareth Davies published what he had found in the Bureau of Investigative Journalism and in the Financial Times. He had done the unglamorous thing. He had read the borrowing schedules. Councils lend to one another. It is ordinary and dull and short. Weeks at a time, at rates near zero. Thurrock was borrowing on those terms. It was not lending on them. It began small. May 2016. £24 million into a solar farm near Swindon. One signature, under delegated authority, by the council's statutory finance officer. The post local government calls the Section 151 officer. In October 2017, the council adopted a new investment and treasury strategy with cross-party support. The officer's ceiling for unlisted investments rose from £200 million to £550. 2 months later, £268 million went into a single project. It was put to an informal meeting of group leaders. No minutes were taken. End of that financial year, £446 million invested. The next, £847. By 2020, about £1 billion. With a stated ambition of 2. On the other side of every one of those transactions stood the same group of companies. Rockfire Capital, Toucan Energy, owned by Kavanagh. The bonds were backed by solar farms, 53 of them in the end, across England, Wales and Northern Ireland. Real fields, real panels, real electricity. £655 million of public money lent to one man's companies to buy them. One seller, one buyer, one signature. In February 2019, £50 million of it left Thurrock in a single payment. Where that money went in the months that followed is now the subject of a High Court claim. The mechanism was not complicated. Borrow short at rates near zero, lend long at 3 to 6%. Keep the difference. And the difference was not a windfall put aside for a rainy day. It was written into the revenue budget as investment income and spent. Nurseries, care packages, bin rounds. Call it what it was. The sunshine spread. It works only while the short money keeps rolling. Every week, the borrowing had to be found again. Every week it was. Quietly, methodically, without fanfare. If you want these stories followed to the last footnote, subscribe. The rest of this is where the money went. The warnings were not missing. They were declined. In March 2018, the Treasury advisors, Close, wrote to the finance officer. The strategy, they said, was what they would classify as extreme, well beyond prudential risk management boundaries. The contract ended. 2 years and 8 months followed, with no advisor at all. That same year, a peer review by the local government association asked for a specialist look at the investments. It was not commissioned. And the annual meeting that reviewed the whole strategy, the inspection later timed it 2.5 minutes. No advisor, no minutes, no break. Between November 2018 and January 2020, Kavanagh's companies drew a further £130 million from Thurrock, top-up payments on 32 farms the council had already paid for. Thurrock's High Court claim, filed in August 2024, says about £150 million was misused. It lists a yacht at £13.7 million, a bombardier jet at £9.1 million, a 232-acre estate in Hampshire at $20.75 million, and, in October 2019, a Bugatti Chiron, £2.3 million across 5 separate transactions. Those are allegations. Mr. Kavanagh denies wrongdoing and has said he will defend the claim. No one has been charged with any criminal offense, and the figure itself is disputed. The court papers put the top-ups at $130 million. The Bureau, reporting on the 2020 refinancing, put $138 million beyond tracing. Different perimeters, both on the record. Then, in April 2026, the case changed shape. In court documents, Kavanagh accepted that he had kept a substantial part of that £130 million for his own benefit. He said he had honestly believed he was entitled to it, that conversations with the then finance officer back in 2018 had left him free to do with it as he wished. The government's inspector had already described what the council thought it was doing. Not investing. Gambling. The words are the inspector's. And in July 2022, the advisor who had been let go picked up the telephone to everybody else. Close was by then advising other councils. In July 2022, it told its clients to stop lending to Thurrock. The short money stopped rolling. Within weeks, the council was days from being unable to pay its own staff. Its finance officer went to the Public Works Loan Board for emergency advances, a request that climbed as far as the Chief Secretary to the Treasury. Your own council may have been one of the 150. Lending between councils is Treasury business. It is not put to residents. It was not put to Thurrock's. The advisor dismissed for using the word extreme was, in the end, the one who called time. On the 2nd of September 2022, the government intervened. Essex County Council was appointed commissioner over Thurrock's finances. The council's leader, Rob Gledhill, resigned within days. The finance officer, Sean Clark, was suspended and resigned before the disciplinary process finished. He has never been charged with any offense. The chief executive, Lynn Carpenter, went on leave and resigned. In November, the company holding the solar farms went into administration. And on the 19th of December, the interim finance officer signed the notice. Gross pressure on the year, £469 million. 452 after reserves. The notice sets out both. 275 million written off the investments. General reserves remaining, 11 million. The bill went to the residents. Above 5%, a rise in council tax requires a referendum of the people paying it. The government waived it. Thurrock's rose by 9.99%. A tax rise, a cuts package, and £636 million of exceptional support from the Treasury. In January 2024, The 53 solar farms were sold for about £700 million, the largest operational solar deal in British history. The loss to the public? Around £200 million. Among the buyers were pension funds belonging to other councils. The money went round in a circle. It came back smaller. Thurrock is now suing Kavanagh. It is also suing 23 other councils over the valuations. Rockfire's liquidators are suing a high street bank. And the thread that started all of it? Not an auditor, a reporter. And, the Bureau disclosed this April, a source inside, who recorded Kavanagh on a dashcam on his way to his own jet. On the 3rd of June 2025, the Serious Fraud Office opened a criminal investigation into the Rockfire Group. No person has been charged. No company has been charged. There is no trial date. What is established is not the taking. That is for the courts, and the courts have not sat. What is established is the permission. Every limit that officer used, the council had voted him. Every strategy was adopted on the record, with cross-party support. The one meeting that reviewed the whole of it lasted 2.5 minutes. Every council in England faced the same squeeze after 2010. 150 of them lent. One of them gambled. Remember the figure from the first minute? £655 million. Lent to one man's companies by one officer, under authority his councillors had given him and never took back. Nobody broke in. The money left through the front door, authorised, unminuted and signed. Thurrock was not robbed. Thurrock was invoiced. Public money is never adventurous by nature. It is only ever somebody else's. The money always leaves a trace. Read the footnote. 170 years earlier, another Englishman built a machine out of other people's money, sat in Parliament while it collapsed, and was never once charged. That story is already here. George Hudson.